The scriptural quote in Matthew chapter 2, verse 15 informs the reader that God's son is Israel, called by God. He stayed there until the death of Herod, that what the Lord had said through the prophet might be fulfilled. Out of Egypt I called my son. This is significant, since Matthew will later claim that Jesus is the new Israel, hence truly the Son of God. Son of God. What does that mean? In first century Hellenism, the title Son of God was, surprisingly for modern Christians, rather common. Look, here is a son of the gods, the divine Augustus. We 21st century Christians, sitting on 2,000 years of theological freight and Christological freight, when we hear God, Son of God, we think God the Son, the eternal second person of the Trinity. And that's not wrong, because we do believe that the church is guided by the Holy Spirit, and eventually we came to understand that Jesus is the eternally generated second person of the Trinity. But is that what Matthew understood? Did Matthew have that theological depth when he was writing and called Jesus the Son of God, or alluded to Jesus being the Son of God? All that theology and Christology took a very long time to develop. So the question is, what did Son of God mean to Matthew? To determine this early meaning of the title, it seems best to begin with a linguistic observation befitting the Semitic cultures of the time. A phrase such as son of X means, in this culture, having the qualities of X. Therefore, son of man, whatever that means, would mean having the qualities of man, meaning human. It could either mean you're a human, or you're a person that looks like a human, or acts like a human.
Jesus talked about the Son of Man many times.
Right. The Son of Man, often being referred to there, is a gigantic constellation. And because rams and men, Mediterranean men, have the same quality, the constellation Aries is probably the Son of Man. That makes sense?
Yes.
Because son of X means having the qualities of X. Yeah. Whenever you move the language, you necessarily change the meaning. So son of the day means having the quality of the day, meaning you're full of light, you're morally upright. And son of hair means you're hairy or hoary. In this vein, son of God would mean having the quality of God, hence divine or divine-like. In a singular henotheistic context, because you have to understand Israel in the Bible, really the New Testament is henotheistic, not monotheistic yet. That took time to evolve. It's very important that I note that son of X could hardly mean having the essence of X, or having the substance of X, or being one in being with X, or consubstantial with X. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Until you get to John, where the Word is.
You still have to actually go a little bit beyond John. You have to get John out of John's community. John's community has to go extinct, and then the Holy Spirit has to take the mess of recontextualization and the debates that go on at Nicaea between Athanasius and Arius, both employing a text that was never written to be used in metaphysical debates about the Son of God. But the Holy Spirit guides the mess. We believe that.
Right. And so the belief now is a valid belief.
Right.
Whether or not they believed it back.
But it would be invalid to retroject that later development anachronistically back on and then proof text with it.
Because if you do that, you miss the original meaning of the text.
And you miss the whole evolution, and you miss the whole glory of the Holy Spirit working in the mess through the centuries, and you're not being honest to our biblical ancestors in the faith. And personally, I'll tell you, there's a whole bunch of reasons not to do that. One of them is also you might start thinking that God only talks to people very clearly and gives you all the information and is a low context speaker and provides everything and there's no development. Well, that's a very precarious way to approach spiritual life, because I got to tell you, I live my spiritual life by falling down a whole lot. And so did the church through the years, my friends. If we start thinking of the church as this perfect receptor to divine radio waves that gets the message perfectly clear and perfectly right without any development.
And it never changes.
And it never changes. It becomes a societas perfectus. And I start looking at the ecclesiology very purple. And then what happens when you encounter, Cardinal Law just died from Boston. When you encounter sex abuse scandals. When you encounter
controversies of doctrine.
Or controversy of doctrine, or a lot of different problems. The fact that we accepted slaves at one point and now we don't. So we have to look at these things and say, no. Thank God that He loves us in the messiness. We have to take the in and incarnation seriously, and we have to take the in and inspiration seriously. And that's what we're talking about here. So we're not saying about doubting our faith, but actually faith does need doubt. We need to doubt our own individual Christian and Catholic infallibility. I know exactly what this means, and I'm reading it just the way the fathers of the church and just the way that the biblical authors understood it. No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. So, son of X forms are adjectival forms, pointing to a significant, extremely notable quality. In Israel's scriptures, the phrase Son of God designates angels and human beings. Genesis chapter 6, verse 11, when human beings began to grow numerous on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, son of X, saw how beautiful the daughters of human beings were, and so they took for their wives whomever they pleased. Psalm 29, verse 1, give to Yahweh, you sons of God, give to Yahweh glory and might. Psalm 82, 6, I declare, gods though you be, offspring of the Most High, all of you. Isn't that interesting? Also, in Israel's scriptures and in the Synoptic Gospels, the phrase Son of God designates the people Israel. Exodus 4, 22-23. So you will say to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, my firstborn. I said to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. Since you refuse to let him go, I will kill your son, your firstborn. Jeremiah 31, verse 9, with weeping they shall come, but with compassion I will guide them. I will lead them to streams of water on a level road without stumbling, for I am a father to Israel. Ephraim is my firstborn. Hosea 11:1, when Israel was a child, I loved him. I attached myself to him. Out of Egypt I called my son. Oh, wow. Matthew chapter 2, verse 15. Now we understand what Matthew's calling him. When he calls him Son of God, he means he's Israel. He is the holy person. He is the holy people. He is the new Israel. That's what Son of God means in Matthew. And that's very important. Matthew 2:15, following Hosea, recontextualizing Hosea. He stayed there until the death of Herod, Joseph, that what the Lord had said through the prophet might be fulfilled. Out of Egypt I called my son. Matthew gets that means Israel. So Jesus to Matthew is Israel. Also in Israel's scriptures, the phrase Son of God designates kings of Israel. 2 Samuel 7:14, God says to David through the prophet Nathan, I will be a father to him, and he shall be a son to me, your son. If he does wrong, I will reprove him with a human rod and with human punishments. 1 Chronicles 22:10, David tells Solomon of God's plan for him. It is he who shall build a house for my name. He shall be a son to me, and I will be a father to him. And I will establish the throne of his kingship over Israel forever. The synoptic Jesus frequently designated people sons of God. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, full of honor are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Children of God, sons of God, really. Matthew chapter 5, 43-45, Jesus said, you have heard it that it was said, you shall attach to your neighbor and reject, detach from your enemy. But I say to you, stick like glue to your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your sky-vault Father, children of your sky-vault Father. For he makes his sun rise on the bad and the good, and causes rain to fall on the just and the unjust. See how sons of God is employed, even by Jesus? Luke chapter 6, verse 35, Jesus said, but rather stick like glue to your enemies and do good to them, and lend expecting nothing back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, children of God, sons of God. For he himself is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Luke chapter 20, verse 36, Jesus said, they can no longer die, for they are like angels. Well, we already know the angels are sons of God. And they are the sons of God, children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. The Matthean Jesus designates peacemakers and those who do not hate enemies as sons of God. The Lucan Jesus designates the dead now with God as being sons of God. Outside Israel, Roman emperors were designated sons of God, as were also Hellenistic holy men, like Pythagoras. Thus, the title designates persons in some special relationship with God or the gods, as well as those who perform deeds of divine quality, shamanic figures, holy men in any tradition. The gospel called Mark designates Jesus Son of God in its very first line. Mark chapter 1, verse 1, the beginning of the gospel of Jesus, Messiah, the Son of God. Later in Mark, the title gets taken up by a Roman centurion impressed by Jesus, who died like a Mediterranean man. Truly, this man was a Son of God. Throughout the Synoptics, we find the designation Son of God as the basis for the claim that Jesus was an Israelite holy man, authorized by the God of Israel and having access to the God of Israel. The celestial voice at Jesus' baptism directed to Jesus himself, you are my beloved Son in Mark and Luke. This is my beloved Son in Matthew. The acknowledgement of unclean spirits successfully challenged by Jesus. Ooh, look at that one coming out. Ooh, he's a little messed up there. Mark and Luke, Son of God. Mark and Luke, Son of the Most High God. Matthew 8:29, Son of God. These are what these demons are saying. Holy One of God. Notice, are they saying you're the second person of the Trinity? Is that what these demons are saying? No, they're saying he's a shaman. I'm in trouble, man. He's a human. He should be underneath me on the pecking order, but he has some kind of access so he can control me. I can't control him.
Not only that, he was bringing God's love to the people and the good news to the poor, and he was doing it continually.
Sure, which is exactly what a shamanic figure does. He brokers favors from alternate reality to consensual reality, to the world around us, and that's absolutely right. He's a healer. But that doesn't mean they're saying he's the eternal second person of the Trinity through whom all things were made.
Really, if they thought that, they wouldn't have killed him, I promise.
And we're talking about demons here. These are demons that keep, when in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, when he expels the demon, we don't know who you are, the Holy One of God. What is it? We know who you are, the Son of God. Oh, look, a fundamentalist Christian might say, see, the demons know that he's the second person of the Trinity, God the Son. No, that's not what the text is saying. And I'm not saying he's not the second person of the Trinity. I'm just saying that's not what the text is saying. That's not what these demons are professing. And God's own acknowledgement of Jesus directed at to his core disciples, my Son, the Beloved. So again and again through the Synoptics, we find the designation Son of God as the basis of the claim that Jesus was an Israelite holy man. Eventually, this designation becomes the central charge against Jesus, doesn't it? Being the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One, Matthew 26:63 has Messiah, the Son of God, while Luke has only the Messiah. Interesting. What do these communities believe? Do these communities, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, believe that he's the eternally generated Son? Is that what they believe? The designation Son of God is also important in order to legitimate Jesus' career. In honor-shame societies, it is always assumed that one will act in accord with his publicly recognized honor rating. Highborn persons, High people, the elites, are expected to lead in public, and their status provides legitimacy for doing so. But lowlifes like this Nazarene are not expected to lead in public, and when that happens, some explanation must be found. His power, and it's his power, ladies and gentlemen, because only males act in public in the Mediterranean world, the Middle Eastern world. His power might be, his authority might be explained by some extraordinary event of circumstance, but if nothing like that could be found, his abilities would be attributed to evil forces, evil persons, demons. Being the son of a village artisan family, Jesus' legitimacy as a public figure was nil. But if he is the Son of God, however, a holy man, his legitimacy is beyond question.